Hey everyone, and welcome to the Crash Course series on unlocking the research behind human AI interaction. This is a 10-part series. The first installment of it, part 0, is already up on the channel. And if you haven't gotten a chance to, go ahead and watch that intro video that tells you a little bit about ETHICOM and myself and the goal of this Crash Course series. So this is the official part 1 of the Crash Course series, and we're going to be addressing the question today of what is human AI interaction. We'll go through the different types of interactive AI agents and also the different uses that are currently out there. So I'm going to cover a lot of different AI tools in this video, and it might be a lot, but I'll just be going through essentially what's out there right now and how it's being used. Some instances will be less common, but just as interesting to note. So, when you think about human AI interaction, one of the first things that may pop up to your head is something like the following. For example, hey, ChatGPT, can you do something for me? So you might be interacting with ChatGPT over the OpenAI interface, and you're basically texting with a chatbot that can do things for you. Or it might be something like, hey Siri, what's the weather? Where you're talking to Siri over your phone and the interaction is just through audio. So these are just a couple of kind of in your face, this is what human AI interaction is. And this kind of concept is captured by some of the early researchers in this field, where, for example, in 2022, one of them mentioned that we're witnessing a profound change in which communication through technologies is extended by communication with technologies. So past technologies that have changed the fabric of our society, for example, the internet and social media, are tools through which people can interact with each other, so humans interacting with other humans. But what's different about AI is now people can interact with the technology itself. People can have a conversation with ChatGPT through language. People can talk to Siri over their phone. And so this is why human AI interaction and just AI in general as a technology is different than other technological advances because of this kind of interactive dynamic. So human AI interaction. But okay, what is human AI interaction? So first of all, I'm just going to go through 2 ways in which people interact with AI, just for simplicity's sake, to give you an understanding of the ways in which people can interact with AI. So here are those 2 ways. The first way is passive human AI interaction. So in this case, AI works in the background. So think of when you are on social media and social media is ran by an AI algorithm. So the content that you see is generated based on your previous interactions and the AI taking that into account as well as other things that are popular. And then however the developers designed the AI to provide you content, that is then filtered through the algorithm. And then what you see next, or what you see generally on your feed, is actually controlled by the AI. So people can either be aware or unaware that they are essentially interacting with AI in this sort of capacity. So people may be aware that their social media algorithm is run by AI, or maybe not. But in any case, this is a passive human AI interaction because you are not needing to necessarily say, hey agent, show me the next video. It just automatically does it for you. So this is one form, and I won't really be focusing on this form in this Crash Course series. Instead, I'll be focusing on the other form of human AI interaction, which is active human AI interaction. So in this case, the user is fully aware that they are interacting with AI, and the AI only works when the user initiates the interaction. So this could be something like putting a prompt into ChatGPT and saying, hey ChatGPT, how's your day? Or help me with this, whatever it may be. And ChatGPT only responds when you provide input. So these are just 2 ways in which people interact with AI. And once again, we're going to be focusing on active human AI interaction, where people are aware that's happening and the AI works when the user initiates the interaction. Okay, so when we're talking about interactive AI, I want you to keep in mind a couple of different terms that people use to describe this type of technology. So you may be introduced to interactive AI or hear about it through any of the following terms. These are fairly synonymous, and since this is fairly a new emerging technology and a bunch of different research is happening, people are talking about it in a bunch of different ways. So you might hear the term conversational AI or conversational agents, or social actor AI or social AI, and many more. But they're all essentially talking about the same thing. So what are these types of interactive AI that we're going to be talking about today? So I'll cover all of these that are listed. There are a lot here, but these are generally the tools that are interactive that are out there right now. So things like algorithmic recommendation systems, automatic vehicles or AVs, generative AI, which also are large language models, chatbots like ChatGPT, and then more specifically, companion chatbots like Replica. There are also social robots like Pero or Pepper. These are less common in terms of everyday life, right? Chatbots are much more common. ChatGPT is fairly familiar to most of you probably, but in any case, social robots are also emerging. However, they're just not as common in the general public. We also have voice assistants, which are also called digital voice assistants, smart assistants, and home assistants, and these are things like Siri, Alexa, Google Home, etc. And I want to provide a distinction within interactive AI and just AI in general, which is that there are AI algorithms and then there are AI agents. So there is an important difference between these two in the sense of what is human AI interaction. So first of all, what is an algorithm? An algorithm is the actual infrastructure of the AI. So this is what is working behind the scenes. It might be something like a transformer model or large language model, like what ChatGPT is based off. And this is essentially all of the computer science stuff, right? Whereas the agent is the embodied autonomous interface of the algorithm. So this is the part of the algorithm that you can actually interact with, where it has some sort of interface where you could communicate with it, for example. So ChatGPT is based off a large language model algorithm, but the agent of ChatGPT is the actual chatbot that you interact with. So this is an important distinction when talking about human AI interaction. And so today we'll be talking about, first off, active human AI interaction, in which the user is aware and AI works when the user initiates, and also agentic AI, so the actual agents of AI that you interact with. So what are some types of interactive AI agents that you can actively interact with? First of these is AI recommendation systems. So this might be something like an AI recommendation system on your phone or on a website that is giving you tips for healthcare or providing you images or diagnoses about health. And it might include an interactive agent form, but in any sense, it's giving you some sort of recommendation based on your questions and input. There are also AI recommendation systems for mortgages. So companies may use an AI system to internally decide whether or not someone should get a mortgage. And so then the interaction is happening with the employee. Or it may be something like an online bot that can help lay people just input information and then get some sort of decision on whether or not they'd be likely to get a mortgage at such and such rate. There are also AI recommendation systems in the case of law. So specifically for recidivism, for example, I was talking about this in part 0. So in New Jersey, the police force could use an AI recommendation system in pre-trials to decide whether or not, or understand whether or not a criminal was likely to recommit a crime, which is recidivism. And they had that option of using this AI recommendation system to do so. So there's an actual interface in that sense of clicking through information and then getting a recommendation, which was generated by AI. The second type of interactive AI that's active in terms of human AI interaction are automatic vehicles. So these are a fairly intuitive instance of interactive AI where people are either in a self-driving car that is driving for them or driving hybrid with them, or people are observing an autonomous robot that is delivering mail or what have you on the streets. The third type are generative AI chatbots. And so these are things like ChatGPT. So in interacting with these, you go on the website for OpenAI and then you ask ChatGPT something and you interact with it just over text. You can also interact with it over voice if you have certain features. And you can also generate things like images and essays and other information. So this is basically a hub based on a large language model that populates the most likely response based on your input. And so sometimes accuracy is fuzzy, and also it can be fairly generic in its responses and seem fairly typical in terms of AI when you produce writing, for example. Another more specific instance underneath this umbrella of generative chatbots are companion chatbots. So these are things like Replica, Anima, and Kiku that people interact with for companionship. So in terms of the research that's done on this, people seek out companion chatbots in order to have a friend, mentor, or even romantic partner, and they can interact with this AI agent that might have an avatar, so like a physical embodiment that looks human-like, over text or over voice as well. So people actually do develop relationships with these chatbots, or sometimes just use them for entertainment, and sometimes they're put on the market as a mental health tool, and there are lots of different societal consequences that go along with that. And if you'd want to hear a little bit more, go to part 0, or also wait for the next instance of this crash course where I'll go into more detail about companion chatbots. The next instance are social robots. So these are less common in terms of the AI that people generally interact with on a day-to-day basis or a regular basis. And some examples are things like the classic robot dog on the left, which you may have seen creepy videos about. It's very Black Mirror, very existential. And then we also have Pepper on the right, which is essentially like a in the workplace robot for getting coffee or doing tasks, things like that. And there are also social robots that are used, for example, in elderly care therapy. So one example is Pero, which is a seal robot. So this is not exactly human-like, but it's animal-like. It's a seal, and it can engage with people, make movements, and it has been used for therapy for individuals with dementia or social isolation.
For people that, like Frida, that doesn't necessarily want to join in or participate with other people, it's had a really amazing impact where she's wanting to come out more and interact with the seal. She will say that she eats better, which in turn then she sleeps better. So it's the whole cycle of her well-being and life which is improved due to Paro.
And the last form of interactive AI that's an agent are voice assistants. So these are things like Siri, these are things like Amazon Alexa, and Google Home. So interactions with these agents occur through voice. So you say, "Hey Siri, what's the weather?" for example, or you say, "Hey Alexa, play my favorite song." And these sorts of agents are in place in millions of homes and on millions of people's devices on their phones. There's a lot of interesting research about family dynamics or just relational dynamics within the home that occur when a smart assistant or voice assistant or home assistant is present. So because a voice assistant responds during conversation, you might see interruptions in conversation or even facilitation of conversations between person to person and AI. So we've gone through all of these technologies that people can communicate or interact with in terms of agentic, interactive AI that people are actively engaging with. And I showed you this quote at the beginning, but there's a second quote that I want to follow up with that sets the stage for the rest of this crash course and highlights what it is about AI that is so critical and that is causing societal change. And that's the following, which is that increasingly important question is how these social responses to agents will influence people's subsequent interactions with humans. So the idea here is that Because AI has these capabilities of autonomously responding in a human-like way, for example, ChatGPT or Siri responding with text or voice that is automatically eliciting these feelings of this is human-like and this is a person or an agent. Because people respond socially to these AI agents based on their capabilities and characteristics, there's some concern and potential that the way that you interact with AI might bleed over or carry over into how you interact with people after you interact with AI. And if you think about it this way, these AI tools are fairly new, but think about how children who grow up with these AI assistants in their homes, for example, with Amazon Alexa, and the dynamics that change as a result of that, how might they perceive these AI agents as time goes on, as they become more familiar and more integrated into everyday life? Because these agents are human-like, and because humans are, well, even more human-like, there's potential that the human likeness of AI might make it so that how you interact with AI actually is similar or affects how you interact with people because of this similarity between these two beings. So this is something that I want you to think about as you go through the remainder of this Crash Course series and go out in the world. But of course, there's always room for questions. This is just an overview. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments or send me an email. My website is there. You can contact me through it. And don't forget to stay tuned for what's next. So part 2 is going to be a history of human AI interaction, from shapes to computers to AI. So this is going to be telling you how we got to where we are based on where we came from. And so this will be showing you trends and research starting in the 1940s up until now to give you a sense of the current context based on the past context. So this is a really interesting part. It was one of my favorite aspects of learning about this field, and I'm excited to communicate it to you in the next video. And if you want to follow along with the rest of the Crash Course series, feel free to subscribe so you get instant notifications of when the next part is up. And of course, if you want to learn more generally about this crash course, go to part 0 and then also take a look at that intro video to acclimate yourself to ETHICOM and to myself and this emerging field.